Under the wide Texas sky, everything looked calm for a moment, but motorsport rarely stays calm for long. One lap, one mistake, one mechanical decision, and the entire story of race weekend can change before the green flag ever waves. That is exactly what happened at Texas Motor Speedway, where qualifying did not just decide the front of the field, it created a drama-filled pre-race narrative packed with tension, disappointment, and one massive breakthrough. Because while some of the biggest names were trying to survive the chaos, one driver rose above it all and delivered the kind of lap that forces the entire garage to pay attention. Carson Hocevar, against a backdrop of pressure, uncertainty, and rising expectations, captured pole position in a session that felt less like routine qualifying and more like the opening chapter of a high-stakes showdown. Texas Motor Speedway has always had a way of turning an ordinary weekend into a test of nerve. This is not a place where drivers can simply cruise through the motions and expect clean results. The speed is relentless, the margin for error is razor thin, and every lap demands commitment. That is what made this qualifying session feel so important even before the cars rolled out. Everyone knew track position would matter, everyone knew momentum would matter, and everyone knew that if something went wrong in practice, there might not be enough time to recover before the spotlight of qualifying arrived. And that tension became real when Bubba Wallace's day took a painful turn. In practice, he showed speed, enough speed to suggest that he could be a real factor heading into qualifying. But then came the crash, the kind of moment that instantly changes the emotional temperature inside a race team. 1 second, there is optimism. The next, there is damage, frustration, and a desperate scramble to regroup. Because in NASCAR, it is not just the impact with the wall that hurts. It is what comes after. It is the lost opportunity. It is the unanswered question of what might have been. Wallace never got to take his qualifying lap, and that absence created one of the most frustrating storylines of the day. At a place where confidence is everything, he was forced to watch the session unfold without a chance to fight for his spot on pace alone. Then there was Austin Dillon, and his story carried a different kind of disappointment. Not a crash, not a sudden impact, but a mechanical setback serious enough to take qualifying out of his hands. His team was making an engine change, and in a sport built on precision timing, that is the kind of issue that can undo hours of preparation in an instant. Qualifying is supposed to be the purest contest of raw speed and execution, but sometimes the real battle happens in the garage, where crews fight against time and machinery just to stay in the game. For Dillon, the session passed by without the chance to attack the track, which meant the day's biggest conversation quickly shifted away from who was struggling and toward who was seizing the moment. That is where Carson Hocevar entered the center of the story. There are some pole laps that feel expected, almost procedural, delivered by drivers everyone predicted would be at the top. And then there are laps like this one, the kind that cut through the noise and instantly change the mood of a race weekend. Hocevar put together a run of 28.222 seconds, a lap sharp enough to beat a stacked field, and put his car on the front row's most important spot. It was not just quick, it was precise, controlled, and timely. In a session where small details separated contenders from the rest, Hocevar found exactly what he needed and turned it into a statement. What made the moment even more dramatic was just how close the field was behind him. Daniel Suarez was only a fraction away. Chris Buescher was right there as well. Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Alex Bowman, and Ty Gibbs all sat in the upper part of the order, proving that this was not a weak field Hocevar had beaten. This was a serious lineup of proven talent, experienced race winners, and drivers who know how to capitalize when Sunday arrives. Pole position at Texas was not handed to anyone. It had to be earned, and Hocevar earned it against names that carry real weight in the Cup garage. That is why this result feels bigger than a number on a timing sheet. Pole position is about more than where you start. It changes the conversation. It changes how the garage looks at you. It changes how the commentators frame the race. It changes how rivals prepare for the opening laps. Suddenly, Hocevar was not just part of the field. He was the driver everyone had to mention first. He had control of the front, clean air in his favor, and the psychological edge that comes with being the one who delivered when the pressure peaked. But Texas never allows a single story to exist in isolation. Hovering in the background was the presence of Hendrick Motorsports, a team with a strong recent record at this track and the kind of history that makes every Texas weekend feel like their territory until someone proves otherwise. That matters because when a powerhouse organization arrives with momentum and confidence, every other team knows the standard they have to beat. Drivers from that camp may not have claimed the pole, but they remained part of the tension surrounding the race. Their history at Texas adds a layer of pressure to the entire field, because being fast for one lap is one challenge, but outrunning a proven race-winning organization over a full event is something else entirely. And that is where this qualifying session became so compelling. It was not simply about who topped the chart, it was about the collision of different narratives heading into race day. On one side, you had Hocevar, the pole sitter, stepping into a spotlight that grows brighter the moment Sunday begins. On another, you had Wallace and Dillon, both denied the chance to shape their starting positions in the usual way. And surrounding all of it, you had a field packed with dangerous names waiting for the smallest opportunity to turn qualifying results upside down once the race begins. Because as any NASCAR fan knows, qualifying can set the stage, but it does not write the ending. Still, starting from the front at Texas is not just a statistical advantage, it is a message. It says your car is ready. It says your team found speed when others were still searching. It says that when the moment came to attack the track with no excuses left, you delivered. For Hocevar, this pole feels like the kind of milestone that can shape perception far beyond one weekend. Young drivers build reputations through moments exactly like this. A pole at a major intermediate track tells the garage that the speed is real, the confidence is growing, and the ceiling may be much higher than some expected. But the most suspenseful part of this entire story is what comes next. Now the attention shifts from one-lap pace to race day endurance. Can Hocevar convert the pole into control once the field surges into turn one? Can he manage dirty air, restarts, tire wear, and the strategic chaos that Texas often produces? Can he absorb the pressure that comes when everyone behind you sees your rear bumper as the first target of the afternoon? Those are the questions that make this result so fascinating. Pole position creates excitement, but it also creates expectation. And expectation can be as dangerous as any rival in the mirror. For Bubba Wallace, the storyline becomes one of recovery. Drivers often talk about how mentally draining it is to lose control of a weekend after showing genuine speed, and that is exactly why his race becomes worth watching. There is urgency there now, and urgency can produce either brilliance or more trouble. For Austin Dillon, the challenge is similar in a different form. When machinery forces you into a compromised position before the race even starts, the comeback effort becomes part strategy, part patience, and part survival. Both men now carry the burden of rebuilding their weekend from the shadows, while others begin with cleaner opportunities up front. Meanwhile, the rest of the top 10 ensures that nothing about this race will be straightforward. Suarez will believe he came painfully close to the top spot and can absolutely challenge for the lead. Buescher has the kind of speed that can convert quickly if the car stays balanced over a run. Hamlin remains one of the most dangerous drivers in any pressure situation because experience tends to matter most when races become complicated. Behind them are names fully capable of turning the opening stage into a fight for control. One aggressive restart, one pit sequence, one perfectly timed caution, and the order can transform in seconds. That is why this Texas qualifying session felt like more than just an official procedure. It felt like a warning that this race weekend is unstable, emotional, and wide open. A warning that fast practice speed means nothing if misfortune strikes at the wrong moment. A warning that garage work can be just as decisive as what happens on the racetrack. And above all, a warning that the pole sitter now carries both momentum and a target. In many ways, that is what makes motorsport so addictive. It gives you heroes and heartbreak in the same afternoon. It gives you the thrill of a breakthrough and the sting of lost opportunity without waiting for race day. Carson Hocevar's pole is the headline, and deservedly so, because he took a high-pressure moment and turned it into one of the sharpest statements of the weekend. But around that headline lives a much bigger story, one filled with damaged hopes, strategic setbacks, and a field of hungry challengers preparing to erase the advantage he worked so hard to gain. So as the lights prepare to come on and the focus shifts toward race day, one truth hangs over Texas Motor Speedway. The front of the grid belongs to Carson Hocevar, but the calm that comes with pole position may only be an illusion. Behind him are proven winners, wounded competitors, powerful teams with Texas history, and enough tension to turn the first few laps into a defining moment. The stopwatch has already spoken, and it placed Hocevar at the top. Now comes the part that qualifying cannot answer. Can the man who stunned the session also command the race, or was this only the beginning of a much bigger Texas twist waiting to unfold? Texas has its pole sitter, the grid has its drama, and the race now has its central question. Carson Hocevar won the first battle in style, but at this track, style alone is never enough. The real test is still ahead, and if this qualifying session proved anything, it is that nothing about this weekend is settled yet.